Welcome to Rant on Reels. I'm Michael Fooch.
And I'm Xavier Barnett.
Today on the podcast, we do a deep dive into the much anticipated Marvel movie, Captain Marvel. And we go deep into the vault to talk about Rush, to get you all ready for the Formula One season.
Ooh, I'm excited. I'm also excited to tell you guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. We're pretty much everywhere and anywhere. So just make sure to smash that subscribe and like button on us.
How you doing, Xavier?
I'm doing great.
I got to be honest, I'm really excited for this podcast.
Really?
I've been so excited to talk about Captain Marvel since Ant-Man came out last year, Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Wow, that's been a while. It's been a long break before we got a Marvel movie.
I
right?
know. I was going through Marvel withdrawal.
There's like something in November, but we didn't get anything.
Right.
Like,
And I was excited to see what our producer Dave was going to do to how he was going to decorate our background. And I looked through it, and it's just Formula One stuff.
yeah,
Can you tell what Dave's got on the brain?
I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I think it's NASCAR, right?
NASCAR. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Are you excited?
Oh, 100%.
Okay. Any stories going on in the world that you want to talk about in the movie world?
Yeah. Will Smith, we all know he's out.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
Well, DC has found his replacement, apparently.
And would you like to tell our audience who that is?
Yeah, his replacement is Mr. Idris Elba.
It's an interesting choice. What are your thoughts on that?
I think he could play a good role. It's gonna be weird because they bring a totally different type of charisma to their acting, so that's gonna be interesting.
But Will Smith didn't really play it in his normal comedy-like role, right? He was very deadpan in that movie.
Yeah.
From what I remember. He played it very seriously.
Really? I couldn't... Yeah, you know what? That is true.
So I feel like Idris Elba is a better choice in that serious role. I think Will Smith, where he excels, is when he's got a little bit more
like
comedy that he can go with.
He needs to be in Marvel. That's where he needs to go.
That's what I was gonna say. So, do you think Idris Elba made the right choice jumping from Marvel to DC?
Well, spoiler alert to Avengers: Infinity War. But if you haven't seen it yet,
where have you been?
Right. He's dead in that. So I mean, like, he can always go back. His role wasn't super major in those films.
That's true.
Plus, he can always come back. And
not really a big movie news week. Alita doesn't look like it's going to get a sequel. Are you hurt by that information?
I actually kind of was interested in seeing where it'd go after that. You know, it's weird that it's not gonna. It was pretty successful overseas, was it not?
I don't know. I haven't followed how much it made overseas. It didn't do very well in North America.
Yeah, it did really well in China. So they ate it up. So,
well, so does Transformers. So I don't know if that's saying a lot about a movie. All right, should we get into this?
All right, let's dive into Captain Marvel.
All right. Now, at this point, we would like to warn you that we have both seen the movie, and this podcast is a deep dive into Captain Marvel, so there will be a lot of spoilers to Captain Marvel and to other Marvel universe movies.
Yeah, we're pretty much everything in the MCU is probably going to get spoiled. We might even spoil comic books. Who knows?
So just take warning of that. All right, Xavier, what are your opening thoughts on Captain Marvel?
I enjoyed it. It was a nice little finding myself type of story. That's how it feels, finding and believing in myself. That's how I felt about it. Okay. One of my favorite, I'll start right off the bat, one of my favorite scenes is when all her different versions of herself in the past, they all stand up and they're like, I always get back up, and made me immediately think of Rocky.
Huh. You know what? That's really true. I didn't even make that connection, but that was a very powerful scene in the movie. I really enjoyed the movie as well, and in a lot of ways, what this movie does, it follows that Marvel model. It doesn't really do anything different, and to me, that's a success. The Marvel model is pretty good. It can't really be that bad if you decide to follow it. It had humor. Its plot was good. I personally thought the characters were developed very well. Mm-hmm. But what I enjoyed most I really enjoyed the storytelling of this movie. I felt this movie was a very Christopher Nolan or had a very Christopher Nolan type feel, like a Prestige or a Batman Begin, because we're in the present, but the most important things happen in the past, and we're slowly given that past as the movie goes forward. It kept you guessing what happened. It kept the it if you like comic books and you know the story, it might not have been true. I had no idea who Captain Marvel was. So for me, it kept me guessing what's going on. Is she Kree? Is she human? I was trying to put this all together. So I found it fascinating. And I thought that was one real I think it keeps the audience engaged. You had to think it again, like I said, if you're a comic book fan, it might have been very obvious. Did you find it obvious?
I'm not. So Captain Marvel is one of the few heroes that I didn't really follow. Like now, well, I guess back then she was known as Miss Marvel, but I never really followed like Cosmic Marvel back in the day because he was always out in space and stuff. So I wasn't a huge follower.
Did you find it like it wasn't very obvious what was gonna happen? Did you like the piecing together of it?
I like the piecing together. I know a little bit of her story past, so I had an idea of what was gonna happen, but it was interesting to me because I don't really know her full story. So.
And not even the storytelling I liked. I like the plot, and Xavier touched upon it a little bit, but the plot is kind of what it means to be human. You know, Xavier told the scene about where they stand up, but it's about being knocked down and being able to get back up. You know, humans and their insecurities on failing at things in life, and, you know, the character Carol Danvers fails a lot. Mm-hmm. But every time she fails, she gets back up, and I really think that's a really important element to this movie and what I liked about it. You know, it takes place in the 90s, and the music was fantastic. You had some Nirvana, Come As You Are. You know, a little Guardians, right? Guardians from, like, the 80s. This one, you got, like, some 90s, some No Doubt, some Salt and Pepper. It's really good. And I'll say this. You know, this movie's kind of getting a bad rap right now. I think the problem is that there's this desire to compare every Marvel movie. And I'm not going to come here and say this is a top 10 Marvel movie. It might not even be a top 15 Marvel movie. But this isn't really supposed to be, I don't think. This is a movie to introduce a character. It's an origin story, which tend not to be the best stories, right? We don't love the origin stories. We like let's get him right into the meat and potatoes of the story. But this wasn't what it was going to be. So I don't think it's supposed to be I don't think it's supposed to be the best Marvel movie, but I think it does a very good job in what it's trying to do.
See, you made a very fair point about that, because I'll bring it back to like Thor. Like the first two Thor movies, I'm not a big fan of. They're not really great. Like not great. They're not up to Marvel standards in my opinion. But when you get to that third one, it was amazing. But we needed those two movies to set up the characters, to get people to know the characters, develop them properly. And then you can't have a Thor Ragnarok if you don't have the first two, right? Thor is an origin story, Thor the Dark World, right? So, in my opinion, I totally agree with what you're saying. So that's why I'm not too upset about it, right?
Well, a good origin story is, think of it like as the foundation. If the better your foundation, the more you can build on it, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this movie does a very good job setting foundation for the MCU to continue to build forward.
Yeah.
And again, not going to be the greatest movie, but it was for what it was. I really liked it. All right, so those are our opening thoughts. They're a little bit longer than normal, but there's a lot to unpack in this movie.
Yes.
And I want to start with, what were your thoughts of the opening? What were your impressions on the opening of this movie?
The opening where she
Were we watching the same movie? She?
Not she.
I'm talking. Sorry, I'm sorry. I was really impressed. I think Marvel did the right thing with their opening. You have no idea what I'm talking about, do you?
Oh, with Stan Lee. Okay. Oh my goodness. The whole time I thought, okay. I was like, what do you mean the movie? Like, I'm trying to remember where the
Marvel did something different. So when we get that Marvel credit, they've started showing all the little superheroes in the Marvel letters as they're playing their corporation logo. Well, they decided to do something a little bit different this time. Instead of using the superheroes, they used a lot of the Stan Lee cameos, as well as him interacting with the actors out on like the red carpet. And then there was a thank you Stan before it.
It was really well done, and I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty heartwarming. He helped me a lot in my childhood and he created one of my most favorite characters ever. So,
I was so impressed. I thought Marvel did the right thing with this. I thought it was classy. I was a little disappointed with our theater though. It took them a while for the claps, and it wasn't like it was only like half the theater that was clapping for it. And I feel like on a midnight showing or like the first showing of a movie, like that's your hardcore fans. There should have been more clapping. That's a little bit of a rant off topic. Do you think this was enough by Marvel though?
I think it's enough. I mean, I thought the way I seen it is that's a good way to pay homage, right? It would have been better on the Endgame though.
I think that this was enough for the first movie they've released since his death.
Yeah.
I think they will do something for Endgame.
Yeah.
I think maybe something as an end credit scene, because I feel like Endgame will be more of a closure to Phase 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that what we'll get at the end of Endgame is more, okay, so we're done with this. Now let's do something in the end for Stan, something special, like Deadpool or Once Upon a Deadpool did at the end of that movie.
Okay.
So I think we could see that, or they could do it after Homecoming for his final, right? Not Homecoming, sorry, Far
From Home.
So they have a lot of options. Is the
Yeah.
point. Okay, so now let's get into the movie, the actual movie. So the movie begins with an introduction to Veers, or Carol Danvers, and to the Kree homeworld. We'll call her Veers until we know otherwise. So it begins with this dream sequence. And Veers is kind of covered in this blue blood, and this Skrull comes and shoots Dr. Wendy Larson, who is played by Annette Bening, and points the gun at her. And I think we're like, what's going on?
Yeah, what's going on? Like, this is a giant crash.
And like there's like sand flying around.
Yeah.
This is, I think, very Christopher Nolan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Veers wakes up. So this is a dream, and clearly it's a memory of hers. Mm-hmm. So she's not sleeping very well. She goes to knock on Yon-Rog's door, who is her commander.
Commander, mentor.
And they go train. And we find out quickly that her goal is to be a Kree hero warrior.
Noble hero warriors.
Yeah. Right? Just this hero warrior that fight these evil Skrulls. And her problem is she has these abilities that she thinks were given to her by the Kree, and there's a device on her neck that
limits her powers.
Or that what she thinks
makes her. Yes.
She thinks what gives her powers.
Mm-hmm.
So what were your thoughts on this introduction?
I liked it. It was a nice little rant, getting to know what her character's about, like how long, what she's been, because I know what happens with Miss Marvel, what she's been doing while she's trying to remember her past and everything like that.
What I liked about this movie kind of sets up her character. And a lot of people are going to criticize this about her character, but it makes sense. She's being trained to be a warrior, a soldier.
Yeah.
They are trying to take her emotions away. And we know that she has no memory of her earlier life. She's been on Hala is the planet?
Yeah.
Hala for the last 6 years. And they basically try to strip her down of her emotions. Don't laugh. Don't feel anything. Be a warrior, like all the other warriors, right? Like when we meet the rest of Star Force, this elite command force led by Yon-Rog, who is played by Jude Law, they are all emotionless, right? And that's what they're trying to turn Veers into, who has a hard time because she's very sarcastic and very,
very human.
Yeah,
they're trying to take the human away.
It is exactly what they're trying to do. So, and a lot of people are gonna say, well, she's so one-dimensional. There's a reason she's one-dimensional. She's one-dimensional because she's been trained for 6 years to be like this. Now, you hope over the last 23 years or 25 years or however long it's been since this movie that she's developed more of her own emotions as she's kind of refined herself. But that makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, I didn't see anything wrong with that. I didn't hate her character. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, some of her one-liners were kind of lame, but
But it's the 90s. If anyone here grew up in the 90s can be defined in one word: cheesy. Everything about the 90s, the clothes, the one-liners, the music, it was all cheesy, and I loved every second of it.
I think that's just the nostalgia goggles talking.
But that's what that is. Like, go watch any program from the 90s. It's cheesy. Whereas when you think of the 2000s more dark, the 90s was all just happy-go-lucky cheesy, like 90210. Like, that's what we grew up with. R.M.P.
Rest in peace, Luke Perry.
Yeah. Nevertheless, so Veers has a hard time keeping these emotions in check because she is human at the end of the day, as we find out later in the movie. And all she wants to do is join the Star Force. So she gets this opportunity to see the Supreme Intelligence. Now, I have no idea. I've never heard of this thing. What is the Supreme Intelligence, Mr. Comic Book?
So the Supreme Intelligence is one of the leaders of the Kree. There's always change. So there's the Supreme Intelligence. I forget who else was. Like I said, I'm not a big follower of the cosmic part of Marvel. And I never read the Fantastic Four much, so that's where the Kree and the Skrulls were really introduced. But yeah, it's pretty much the leader of the Kree, and it's an AI.
It's not Ronan.
No.
So when I was watching this movie, I assumed it was Ronan. I assumed Ronan was the leader of the Kree.
No.
Everyone
not. Answers to the Supreme Intelligence.
So Ronan is in this movie. Is he just a
he's
general?
He's a special force. Yeah, he's
he's like a Ranya. He does his own thing.
Yeah, he has a different thing. Like, they're called the Accusers, so they just bomb and stuff like that.
Okay, hence why Ronan the Accuser makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
He accuses people.
And now
with bombs.
Well, one of the reasons I was struggling with what the Supreme Leader was, or what the Supreme Intelligence was, is she doesn't show herself to anyone. She shows herself through.
It's not a she. It's an it.
It shows itself through something you love. So for Veers, who when she goes to see it, it's in Dr. Wendy Lawson, the girl from her dream. This is the first time she's seen the Supreme Intelligence, and she's confused by it. She's like, "Wait a minute, I don't even know who you are, and you're supposed to be the person who matters most to me." So she has this problem with controlling her emotions, and the Supreme Intelligence says, "I'm going to give you your mission, but just remember, if you let me down, we're taking your powers away."
Yeah, and she's like, "What? No way."
I found this scene to be interesting. So after this, she goes and she puts on her Star Force uniform. She's all happy to be there. She's walking in all seriousness with the rest of the crew onto the ship. And she's the only one telling jokes while everyone else is so serious. So, do you think that this is out of place?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't think it's out of place because it explains that she's still a human, right? They have a bunch of other people that have been integrated into the Kree Noble Warriors, so they're just thinking oh, this is just another mission. They kind of look like they hate their jobs, but
yeah. But again, very, very military, very serious. So they go on this mission, and it turns out to be an ambush by the Skrulls. And Veers gets captured, and during this capture, she goes into her memories, and we get these gauges, these visions of the past, and we have this narrator, the leader of the Skrulls, the Talos, and he's like, "Not there, go back further, go into the future," and she's kind of like, "Where am I?" kind of thing.
Deja like, what's vu, going on?
Are you what am I seeing here? Because she doesn't have any memories, so she eventually gets control and becomes cognizant of what's happening. And we find out the Skrulls are actually looking for Dr. Wendy Lawson, who we think is a human.
Yes.
Now, when she wakes up, she is tied upside down. Hands are so she can't shoot the proton blast.
Proton blast.
They're wrapped in this metal, and she breaks free. But her hands, she can't use them, so she's
punching. She's punching really hard.
Yeah, punching her way out, and eventually she uses her powers as much as she can and destroys the ship.
Yeah.
And she's able to get to a like a lifeboat,
A life pod.
a life pod,
Escape pod. Come on,
just
man.
in time. I know you think I would know this. I love sci-fi.
Yeah.
Get to the escape pod.
not chopper.
And she breaks free, but the escape pod is damaged. And as she's falling, she falls to Earth, or C-53 in this movie, and lands in a blockbuster.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
Again,
That's in the trailer.
nostalgia goggles. I didn't watch the trailer. I didn't know this.
Yeah, that was in the trailer though. So, if you
So-
saw the trailer, you would have known.
She asks a security guard where I can get communication equipment. The Radio Shack. More nostalgia goggles. And she uses a payphone and calls Yon-Rogg, and they are 22 hours away. So Captain Marvel Veers is on her own.
Mm-hmm.
And as this is going on, S.H.I.E.L.D. arrives. And I'm not going to lie, it was so good to see Agent Coulson back in the fold.
Yeah,
I love
young Agent Coulson.
Love
Did
Agent Coulson.
they use the anti-aging on him as well?
I don't know. I don't think he ages. He looks identical. Did you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at all?
Yeah.
He looks identical now as he did when he was the first on Iron Man.
Wow.
But anyways, so Coulson and Fury arrive. And Fury has two eyes, which I was surprised for. I didn't watch a preview, so I didn't know that that he had two eyes at one point.
Do you like how his?
We'll talk about that when we get
later.
there. So they talk to Veers, who basically is telling them exactly what happened. I'm from a different planet, and there are aliens that have come to take the Earth.
Mm-hmm. They're shapeshifters. You can't trust them.
You can't trust them. And they're laughing at her and saying, you're going to be under arrest.
Yeah.
But as this is going on, the shapeshifters, the Skrulls, attack.
Mm-hmm.
So she chases one of them, and we get this huge action sequence on a change. So Veers chases this train. I thought the sequence was very well done.
Yeah, it was interesting. I really liked the first introduction of the Skrulls. It was very interesting, and plus, watching them shapeshift, it was really cool seeing that aspect as well.
Very good CGI too.
Mm-hmm.
On the train, we get the Stan Lee cameo, which is he's reading the Mallrats, the script, which was really cool. I really like the passengers, how they react to what's going on.
Yeah, that's something I really enjoyed.
So Veers walks through the train, and the Skrull has transformed into an old lady, and Veers knows that it's the old lady, so she looks right at her, eye to eye, and then she just grabs her fist and punches her in the face. So funny. And then the two fight on the train, and when she's got her knocked down and on top of her, and she's gonna kind of go for the final blow,
people grab her and stop her.
Yeah.
Everyone keeps trying to stop, which is, guys, you're like, I mean, like, you would hope people would try to stop someone fighting an old lady, but I'm guessing, like, did you not see that old lady do flips and stuff? And, like, I don't know, that's not really,
Or even just seeing, like, after, so, like, she, as the old lady now leaves, she transforms into one of the men on the train, and the man is looking as this Skrull is transforming into himself, and it's like, what am I just seeing here?
Yeah.
Just a funny sequence. While this is going on, Fury is in a car with Coulson, and they're trying to catch this train.
Mm-hmm.
And as this is going on, Fury gets a call on a walkie-talkie from Agent Coulson.
He's like, where are you?
I'm at the Blockbuster by myself, and the Coulson in the car is a Skrull, and there's a tussle between the two of them. An accident happens as an 18-wheeler hits or a garbage truck hits the car right on the Skrull side, and the Skrull dies.
Yeah, and it messes up Fury's eye a little bit.
Yeah, he's got a nice little scrape right on top of his eye.
And his eyes are like blood red.
So, what are your thoughts on that?
The sequence?
Yeah.
Or just the crash?
The sequence.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it for the most part. I liked the first interaction with the Skrulls. I didn't... Like, it's not my favorite sequence in the movie, but it was good.
So from there, Veers is able to escape. Fury takes the Skrull, or the dead Skrull, and they do an autopsy. And is it the director?
Yeah, the director at that time.
The director of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time basically tells Fury, go find Veers on your own. Don't tell anyone.
Because we can't trust them because they shapeshift.
But the director is actually Talos,
Yeah.
the head shapeshifter, who plays himself, who plays Ben Mendelsohn, who is a fantastic actor.
Yeah, I didn't
and
know
was
he
so
changed
good
it.
in this role.
I'm like, that accent was great that he had in that role.
So good.
I was like, wow. I'm like, yeah. Is that his actual voice?
I think that's his actual voice.
Wow, that's way better. They should have him speak in that voice, not not that.
So Fury meets Veers in a bar, and they form an alliance. We find out all of the information about the Skrulls that we need. That they're shapeshifters. That how you detect them is through old memories, because that's the one thing they can't figure out.
Yeah.
Your old memories. The DNA is the same. The blood would be the same. The fingerprints would be the same. The only way to figure out if they're a Skrull is to know their long-term memories.
Yeah, you have to. They can't remember recent memories.
And the two of them, they go into Fury's car and they drive to the Pegasus facility where Dr. Lawson worked. And this is the one scene I didn't really like about the movie. So they get to Pegasus headquarters and they ask for Dr. Lawson. And they get arrested.
Yeah.
I don't understand this. Like, he's a SHIELD agent. He uses fingerprint to get in. Why would they arrest Why would they arrest the SHIELD agent?
Maybe it was the director's orders.
Maybe. I know they say because it was a cover up.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, when he does escape and all the other SHIELD agents show up, they're like easy. They can move around, no problem.
That's a good question.
So the one thing I really didn't like about this sequence, either way, they break out, and as they're breaking out, Fury sends a message to the director that, "Come, I need backup. Like, help me out."
Uses the pager.
Yeah, the pager.
It's very significant.
Yeah, and as they're breaking out, they see this cat, Goose.
Goose.
Now this is not the cat in the comics. Because you know why they named him Goose?
Oh, there's a cat in the comics.
Yeah, she has Carol Danvers has a cat in the comics.
Oh.
But it's not Goose.
What is it?
I don't know. I don't remember the name of the comics, but I'll tell you this. Do you know why they renamed him Goose?
Why?
Take a guess.
Because Top Gun?
Yes, Top Gun. The pilot Anthony Edwards plays the Top Gun Goose. Solid, one of my favorite movies. So I like that aspect.
Oh, that's a little Easter egg.
So they go
Easter.
They go to the room for records. They grab all of the information on Lawson, and they realize that she was making a light ship, which is what light speed ship, which is what they think the Skrulls are after. But they canceled it, and Veers is like, "Why did they cancel this?" And Fury's like, "Oh, because she's crazy." But she's really Skrull. It's really Skrull writing, so they think
Kree.
Oh, Kree writing. Sorry, and it's like, oh Dr. Lawson was Kree.
Yes, the whole time.
And Fury says she's dead, and she disappeared 6 years ago with another pilot.
Mm-hmm. Whoa.
Dun, 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 dun.
That's a link.
So Fury steps out because S.H.I.E.L.D. has arrived, and Veers looks at the picture and sees herself, and she's like, "Oh my god!" So when Fury sees the director, they're like, "I want to talk to." Director's like, "I want to talk to Veers alone."
Yeah.
And they go into the elevator, and the director calls Fury Nick.
Yeah, Nicholas.
And like and there was a whole scene about nobody calls me Nicholas.
Yeah, everyone calls me Fury.
So this allows Fury to understand that he's not actually the director because the long-term memory isn't there.
And then he asks him something about an operation they did
in Havana.
And then he's like, "Yeah, Havana, ha ha ha." And he's like, "Yeah, this guy's not the right person."
So the two of them, Fury will eventually get into a fight, and Veers will save them, and the two of them will escape on a helicopter, and the cat comes with them.
Goose.
And the two go to New Orleans to see the only person that knows about this flight, Maria Rambo.
Maria Rambo.
Nice. So
nice
they go
job.
Now, Maria is Veers, or Carol Danvers' best friend.
Yes, from the army.
and they go to Maria's place, and her daughter recognize Carol right away, and Maria's like, it's like she's seen a ghost.
Yeah.
So they explain what happens, and Carol has no memory, that she has no memories, and they're kind of having a moment, and then the Skrulls arrive, but no, not in any disguise. He shows his true self, and he's like, I just want to talk. And Talos says, I didn't know who you were, otherwise I would have approached it differently. Mm-hmm. I thought you were a Kree, but it turns out you weren't Kree. That I have the black box of your crash 6 years ago, and you need to listen to it. So as the black box is playing, Veers, or Carol now,
her memory starts to jog.
So she remembers. Man. And it wasn't a Skrull that killed Dr. Lawson.
Who was it?
It was...
Who was
Drum roll, Yon-Rogg.
Whoa. Plot twist.
Did you see that one coming?
At
the beginning of the movie, did you see it coming?
The beginning of the movie? Well, I know the past, so if I didn't know, I would have guessed it. I wouldn't have guessed it, but I kind of knew because
I suspected that Yon-Rogg was not a good character, but I didn't think he was going to be the one who killed Dr. Lawson.
Yeah, he's shady.
He seemed shady, right?
Mm-hmm. And then there was a hint because the one girl said, "Have you been to Earth before?"
Oh, absolutely.
And then she's like, "Yeah, it's dirtball."
No, he didn't use that word.
Well, I'm not going to say what it.
A beep hole.
Yeah.
A little reference to our current political climate, which our theater laughed hard on that scene. So Carol is now is torn. Her entire, at least, memory of the last 6 years has been manipulated. They were manipulated. The Kree are the villains? Question mark.
Villains, yeah, they recreated her. They're the antagonists, I would say.
In this movie, they are. Mm-hmm. But you told me in the comics that they're both villains, both the Skrulls and the Kree?
Yeah, they're both villains in the comics.
So she decides, after going through this moral search and Maria helping her, that she's going to help the Skrulls. And as this is going on, Yon-Rogg returns and realizes that Carol has all of her memories back.
Yeah.
So he calls his buddy Ronan and the accusers to come to help.
Bomb Earth.
Now Carol and the Skrulls, as well as Maria and Fury, they go to the light ship. What were your thoughts on Maria going? Because I know that you were not you weren't big on this idea, right?
No, I didn't. She wasn't super needed, but I guess, like, what was her purpose there? Did she do anything?
Yeah, 100%. She's the one who flew everyone back.
Yeah, but everyone else can fly. Like, Talos can fly.
Are you sure? A human spacecraft? A human spacecraft?
It wasn't a human spacecraft. It was like a alien spacecraft, wasn't it?
No, that was the one that they stole from the Pegasus lab.
Yeah, that's not human. That was like Kree made, because it's everything from Pegasus is based off of Kree knowledge, right?
Yeah, but would the Kree know how to? Would the Skrulls know how to fly Kree technology?
Yeah. Of course they do. They're shapeshifters.
See, I liked it. I liked it a lot. This is her dream job. One of the things this movie does very subtly, and we'll talk about this when we get to our questions about is it a social justice movie, is it deals with women in the military. And in 1989, when this movie takes place, women were not allowed to fight combat missions. I remember, like, when I was in high school, this was a big issue. Should women be allowed to be in combat? And, like, you have Carol Danvers and Maria Rambeau as two pilots that just want to fly combat missions, and they're not able to.
Yeah, they can only do flight.
They can only do simulations and
test
flights and things like that. So, this was her opportunity to be the hero, which is what she signed up for when she joined the military. So I thought this was poetic justice and a very subtle way to talk about or to deal with, women's rights.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I really like that. And way. I know Haroon was really hard on this, but she's got a daughter. Whatever. She had a daughter when she joined the army, right? The daughter was 6 years old 6 years ago. So, and she was still flying these missions. And you know the daughter saying like, "Don't you want to be? Don't you want me to be proud? How do you want me to be raised? Someone who is going to sit at home and watch Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, or someone who's going to go make a difference in the world?" So
Wow.
so I liked it. I thought it was important. And I mean, she's a co-pilot, right? Like those ships, there was room for two pilots.
Yeah.
It wasn't an aircraft.
They did it
It wasn't a
together.
fighter where there's one pilot. You could have two.
I love how they kept that aspect of how Carol Danvers was a pilot. Like she's one of the best flyers in Marvel Universe.
Good. I liked it too. I thought she was fantastic.
Even though she doesn't need it.
The cat also joins them, and Talos is terrified of this cat. And they're like, "That's not a cat."
That's a flogging.
And I'm like, "What the hell's a flogging?" And I'm just like, "Okay."
I thought it was Alien for cat, to be honest.
I thought so too. That's exactly what I thought. Oh. So Fury, because Talos is afraid of the cat, Fury loves this cat.
Mm-hmm.
Fury's been petting this cat since the beginning. So they go to this ship, and it's not a Lightspeed ship. Or it might be a Lightspeed ship, but that's not the purpose or why Talos wants it. Mm-hmm. He's been dying to get to this ship for 6 years because it's a refugee ship for the Skrulls. And his wife and a
his
daughter.
son.
Daughter, I think.
I don't know. Some people say I thought it was a daughter, but some people on the in the comments are saying it's his son.
Whatever. His child, who he's never met or didn't see since he was a baby, or she was a baby, was on it. And the power of the ship is the Tesseract.
I was like, whoa.
So as
that makes sense. It's light speed though.
Yes.
Because the Tesseract is
the
space stone.
Yeah. It lets you travel right across the universes and galaxies.
Yeah.
So as they are there and they're having their reunion, Yon-Rogg arrives with his Star Force, and they capture everybody because they've taken away Carol's powers. Right? She can't use them because of the device in her neck.
Plus, he's being brainwashed by the Supreme Intelligence.
Yes. So the Skrulls get thrown into a cell. The humans are going to be thrown out the ship just through the air vent, and Carol is put into the virtual reality to see the Supreme Intelligence. And I really like this scene because when she goes to see, it's Wendy Lawson who she sees, and she's basically saying that we gave you your power so you can't use it, and then she shows her. She shows Carol every aspect of her childhood that she has fallen.
Yeah, every time she's failed.
Every time, which I found fascinating. And then she throws her on the ground and says, "You're just human." And then it's a light switch that goes off into Carol's head. Mm-hmm. And she remembers. Every one of those times, yes, she did fall. But every one of those times, she got back up.
She roused
and
to
she
the
realized
occasion.
that it was humanity that helped her out. And she ripped the device off her neck, and broke out of the virtual reality.
While this is going on, she's like floating, and the ship's losing all its power and stuff, and then she's floating. Which, if I was one of those guys there, I probably would have shot her in the head. Just watching that happen, like why didn't anybody?
Because they probably had orders not to shoot, right?
That's true.
So she escapes. She gives the Tesseract to the humans, or to Maria and Fury, and says, "Take the Skrulls and get out of here. I'll create a version."
Flargon eats it.
Yes, and we find out what a Flargon is actually a different species, and it's like it has octopus tentacles that eat things.
Eats people. That's not a good way to go.
As the humans escape, Carol becomes the superhero she is. Mm-hmm. And she cleans up all of the Star Force. Big, huge battle sequence. Yon-Rogg escapes to Earth on a ship, and kind of Carol goes to grab it.
Yeah.
But space, and she falls as she looked like she should fall into her death. At the last second, her eyes awaken.
Her eyes light up, and she goes like.
And we know she's gonna fly.
I knew she flies, so
yeah,
that's how
I had a feeling. So she flies around, knocks Yon-Rogg's ship to the ground. The humans escape, and then Ronan's ship arrives, shoots his missiles to Earth. She takes one missile, throws it back, explodes them all. Comes to space, breaks down a ship, gives like the "this is my planet, go away" kind of speech.
Yeah.
And then Ronan leaves saying that I will come back to, finish this at some point, or for Captain Marvel. And then she throws. Oh, she goes back to confront Yon-Rogg, and basically says Yon-Rogg's like, "I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you, Veers.
Yeah.
This is so good. Now let's fight, mano a mano." And then we get the Indiana Jones moment where she uses her fires at him, and then says, "I don't need to fight you. I don't need you.
I don't need to prove anything.
Nothing." She puts him into the ship and says,
right on
"I'm
that,
coming
too.
to end the war." Oh, perfect scene. So then we have a dinner at Maria's. It's Talos, his family, Maria, Fury, Carol. Something we should know about Fury is on the way back, the cat or the fluke scratched his eye and that's going to become an important aspect of the entire universe.
Yeah, that's where he gets.
What are your thoughts on that? On how he loses the eye?
In my opinion, it's lame.
See, I
don't
liked
like
it.
that.
See, why do you think it's lame?
He got scratched in the face by like a cat or a flargon.
But that's it, right? Like, if it was a big, to me, if it was a big thing, if it was a big issue, he would tell people. But the fact that no one knows how he had lost his eye, it needed to be something small. It needed to be something stupid, because it's more. It makes more sense.
Fair enough, but in the comics, like Nick Fury's super secretive, so he never really tells anyone anything. So that's why.
So how would you have liked to him to lose his eye then?
Something cool, shot in the eye or freaking stabbed in the eye by a lightsaber.
A lightsaber.
Fighting 5 Skrulls at once.
I'm just gonna go back to my.
Not scratched in the face.
So at dinner, Carol says she's gonna find the Skrull a home, and gives Fury the device that we see at the end of Infinity War, and says emergencies only. She says goodbye to Maria and her daughter, and then she leaves. Mm-hmm. We go back to Fury in his office, and he's about to write the Protector Initiative. But then he sees the picture of Carol again, and her call sign is Carol Avenger Danvers.
Yeah. Then he writes the Avenger Initiative.
What'd you think of that? I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, because you're a Marvel fanboy.
What is it Marvel fanboy about
I'm
this?
just joking.
It makes sense. Why call it the Avenger Initiative?
I don't know.
This is a reason, isn't it?
It's a good read. I guess I'm okay with it.
It's not crazy out there. It's not like I don't think they forced this.
Was Captain America called the first Avenger though?
He was that they call him.
Or is that just the title of the movie?
They never actually call him. They never say he's an Avenger in that movie. In fact, if you want to go play by the comic books, the Captain America isn't even in the original Avenger. So let's
look at this guy. He's dropping some knowledge on us.
Let's call this what it is, okay?
I didn't know you knew that. Okay.
Yeah.
Respect to that.
Just the title of the movie. That's all it is.
You must have read that. You Googled it, didn't you?
No, when the first Avengers was coming out, I was reading like the Hulk was the original leader of the Avengers.
Yeah.
And then I was like, it was more reading about like that. I never actually read the comics, but definitely learned that. So I liked it. I did. I thought it was neat and tidy. So then we get the mid-credit scene, and it's clearly a scene from Endgame where we have Captain America, Black Widow, Bruce Banner, and War Machine. They're watching this pager, and the pager has turned off. And they're like, we need to turn it back on. We don't know what it is, but clearly Fury did it for a reason. Mm-hmm. And Black Widow turns around, and we see...
Where's Nick Fury?
Where's Fury? And then bam, done. And then the end credit scene is just... the
guy toffing up the Tesseract.
So
I have a question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
What do you think of how she got her superpowers?
I got no problem with it. Why? Is that
No, I don't have a problem. I liked it. At first I didn't like it, but then I thought about it cuz the engine is powered by an Infinity Stone. So that's the reason why she's so powerful the way she is, right? Mm-hmm. So it makes a lot more sense now to me.
Well, Haroon tried to criticize it by saying, but if the engine's just a Tesseract machine, why when the like Red Skull's machine in First Avenger blew up, no one became one or got those powers? And I tried to explain to him, I'm like, but it's probably mixed with Kree technology. The way
Yeah.
the engine was built was different.
Yeah, it was also mixed with Kree technology as well, right? So
Yeah.
that's why I think it worked, because I'm like, okay, she got power from the Kree technology. Plus, she wasn't stable when it happened. Like they had to run an operation to save her because
Yeah.
she wasn't fully stable when that happened, right?
Yeah,
So
they probably infused Kree blood in there. That
Yeah.
probably turned her more into Kree. She's not human. She's definitely not human anymore,
like
right?
those other people, because what the Red Skull did was just make a giant laser with it.
Exactly. So absolutely. So my first question to you: do you think this is a social justice movie? Because this is one of the main criticisms. This movie has a 59% on Rotten Tomatoes by human viewers or like regular viewers, not critics. And what I'm getting a lot of when I was just scrolling through those comments, oh, if you're a man, you're not gonna like it. Turn it off. Did you find that?
No, I didn't really. And the funny thing is, the way it was marketed, they marketed it like it was a
Stupid
super-
marketing. I agree with you 100%.
yeah. The way they marketed it was not how the movie actually looked. Like when I watched it, I'm like, there's not really much like, and the aspect they drew from like for the for feminism was true though. Like it's not like it's wrong. Like that wasn't a real issue back in the 90s.
And this is why not even 90s, right? 1989, right?
Yeah.
And this is to me is the big aspect to it. Yes, the issue of sexism is in the movie. But it's not blatant. They don't belabor this point in saying that men are evil in this movie at all.
Yeah, it's
That's
not
what the
pounding
movie's
your
about.
head. It's not pounding your head at all.
When she's getting knocked down, she's not saying, "Oh, you're a woman, you can't do it." It's you're a human, you're not good enough. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, exactly. I'm a human.
This is social justice for humans, man.
100%. You know,
This is
it's
sick and tired of this human propaganda, like showing aliens as terrible people.
It's true though. Hey, we're all human. That's the one thing we can all agree upon. We should be able to all hold on to that we're all human. But I don't see it like, you know, it's a strong female character, and I think the marketing was done wrong on this movie.
Yeah.
You know, why make it about being a woman? You have a good strong character. If you make something about being a woman, or if you make something about being a man, you've alienated half of the country, half of the planet.
Well, technically, there's more women than men.
Yeah,
so
51 to 49. It's not. It's half. It's close enough.
that's a lot when there's billions of people on the planet.
You get one of my points. So I don't see it like that at all, and I think that making it in the 80s it adds to it. If you make this movie in 2019 like this, I think it does become more. You belabor the point a little bit more.
Yeah. Plus, some of the stuff that Brie Larson said before was questionable as well.
I know, and I just, you know, some of the comments I was reading about is the fact that this movie is all about, you know, or it's not like Wonder Woman. You're right, it's not like Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was an action movie first and foremost, and it was about women empowerment. It made all of the men characters stupid or weak or flawed. This movie didn't do that. This movie was a solid movie. Are you okay with this being an origin story?
Yeah, I know people get annoyed by origin stories, but I'm like I said it at the beginning. I'm okay with origin stories because it builds, like you said, it builds the foundation for them to do more, right? You can't have a Thor Ragnarok. The reason why it's so successful is because of those origin stories, those introductions of Hulk. You know, that's how I feel about it.
So,
or Civil War. There would be no Civil War if it wasn't for all those origin stories.
100%. You need origin stories. They're the foundation. No foundation, you don't have anything. One of the criticisms I read, and I think this is such a stupid criticism, but I'm gonna ask you about it anyway. What did you think of the fact they called themselves Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Oh, that's one of the.
Well, if you watch the first Iron Man movie, they didn't call it S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time. Remember, Coulson always did the whole acronym, and then the joke was, that's really long, and Coulson was always like, we're working on it.
Oh.
And at the end, they call it S.H.I.E.L.D. for the first time.
I guess it's kind of.
I see to that criticism. that was for the fans, right? They didn't know where they were going with it. It was always Shield, but it was like it was a tease. It was there for the fans to kind of at least an on-running joke. They didn't need to do it this time. So well, I don't know. That was one thing.
I didn't even know people were upset about that.
So one of the criticisms I found on the other side, maybe the people that wanted it to be a social justice movie, said that they shackled Captain Marvel throughout the movie. Do you agree?
What do you mean shackled?
Shackled her. They kept her powers hidden the entire time. They never let her be herself.
Did we watch the same movie?
Well, in the third act she did, but they shackled her in the first two acts. Is what
Well,
they're saying.
that's because it was about her becoming herself, right? I don't know. Sometimes I don't think people kind of watch the movies, but yeah, the whole point was, at the end of the movie, she got super powered up. We saw her take out giant nukes, like planet destroying nukes, and chuck it off, and then
and if you
shoot down a spaceship.
And if you're looking at good Marvel movies, you do lose your powers. Think of Thor Ragnarok. He was a useless piece of crap for half the movie.
Yeah, he lost his hammer.
And then he was turned into slavery. Or in Iron Man 3, right? He loses all of his suits, right? Like, it's part of the universe that you go through some adversity. In fact, that's what made that's what made this movie so good. Like, to me, the first two acts are so good. I personally think that Ronin scene shouldn't have been in the movie.
Yeah, I remember you did not like that scene.
This is not, to me, like, one of the things that Marvel does very good is in their individual movies, they don't make them pure action movies. That they're always something to go with it. So, like, Captain America's Winter Soldier, it's like a political thriller. Ant-Man is like a heist movie. To me, like, Captain Marvel is more of a buddy cop movie, right? Between, like, Samuel L. Jackson and Brie Larson in the car together, like solving a crime.
Fair enough.
A mystery, right? That's what it is, right? The mystery of Carol's past. And it's not an action movie. If you put too much action in this movie, then think of it like this. How are they going to work her into Endgame? If she can just take on an entire army by herself, why is she going to need help? You need to limit them in their individual movies so they're good in their big movies.
Sorry, I didn't want to steal your thunder, but just to that point, they always dumb down. Like, Hulk's not as powerful as he is supposed to be. Thor's not as powerful as he's supposed to be.
Because how do you relate them with Captain America, or with Iron Man, or with Black Bloody Widow? Like, how do you do that? She's just kind of a human.
Yeah.
If you want to, you have to dumb them down. The most important thing for Endgame is their ability to gel. You do not want to get into a Justice League situation where all the Justice League members struggle to beat Steppenwolf, and then Superman comes in and just like, boop, one-shots him.
Which is weird. I mean, Aquaman's not a pushover. They made Superman way too powerful in that.
But he is supposed to be the strongest. But that's the
Superman
problem.
Superman is the strongest, but Aquaman's up there.
Even in Batman versus Superman, when they're fighting Darkseid or whatever his name is. Is that what the villain from Batman vs Superman?
No, it's not Darkseid. It's Doomsday.
Doomsday.
This guy's a Superman fan. That's his favorite superhero, by the way.
Up. The point is, Batman was useless in that fight. He was just hiding in the corner.
No, he shot that kryptonite glass one canister in his face.
No, I'm talking about when they were fighting Doomsday.
Yeah, no, he did shoot that. Okay, shot
fair
one.
Enough. Fair enough. The last thing I want to talk about before going into our criticisms is, you know what? No, I think that's good. What are some of your criticisms of this movie?
The Eye from Nick Fury. That scene that you said about the Pegasus,
Arrested?
the Pegasus scene, and that's pretty much it.
My main criticism was going to be the cat, because I was so upset. Like, this cat seemed out of place. But when I did my rewatch on it this afternoon, I realized that Dr. Lawson brought the cat to Earth. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So
okay.
Totally makes sense. So I was good with the cat.
Okay.
I've got really 3 criticisms, and 2 of them are kind of not really related to this movie. So I'll start with the one related to this movie, the Tesseract. I don't know if it's a criticism or not, but I don't understand how the Tesseract gets in the possession of Pegasus. So Howard Stark finds the Tesseract at the end of First Avenger. So are we just under the assumption that the Air Force and NASA are working with SHIELD and they gave them the Tesseract? Or maybe Howard Stark was somewhat involved in Pegasus and that's how they got it?
It could be.
So I just don't understand.
Yeah, I want a more. That's what I was.
That was the one thing I was like, wait a minute, how did they get the Tesseract? Because it was in Stark's possession, but I thought it was in Shield's possession, right? Out because Stark helped start Shield, right? So I thought maybe that was it. So I don't understand that. So that's one of them. My second one is again.
Wasn't Stark killed? He's killed in '92, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he would have probably given it to Shield before then.
Yeah,
and that was 80, and that was 89. That happened.
Yeah.
That Carol got lost.
Yeah, but back then the Tesseract was there the whole time.
Yeah, so it would have been before he died, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
If he died in '92, right?
That's true.
In '89, it would have been locked on that ship for 6 years. So I don't know. That's one thing I would have liked to know more of. My second criticism is Captain Marvel. Why is she named Captain Marvel? Like they never actually name her that in this movie. Do we realize this?
Yeah. Well, technically that is her name in the comics, and because she's probably gonna name herself after Marvel.
Yes, that's what my assumption is. Yeah. But it wasn't. I guess that's and that leads me to my last criticism. Okay, and this is not the fault of. I blame Kevin Feige for this.
What? This
movie's out of place. This movie needed to be shot 3 years ago or come out 3 years ago because to me. It doesn't answer a couple things. So first, where's she been? It doesn't answer that. It doesn't give us that answer because here's the thing. So Ronan's in this movie, and do you remember Ronan's last words?
We need to use her.
No, we're coming back for her.
Yeah.
So does she come back for her? There seems to be Ronan's dead now because in Guardians, right?
Yeah.
So what happened to that? And we've met the Kree in Guardians of the Galaxy.
And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we know them. So the questions become, at least for me, is this movie, there needed to be another Captain Marvel movie before Endgame. Now, I'm fine with a lot of this movie. The only thing I really would have changed was I would have made the Ronan sequence in the second movie when she kind of really starts to develop her powers.
Yeah.
I would have kept it more as an origin story.
They kept her, Doctor Strange level in the first movie. Not even Doctor Strange has that.
Yeah. So I think there needed to be one more movie. That's probably my biggest criticism. But again, it's not a criticism of this movie. It's a criticism of
the planning of the MCU.
Yeah, and if they make another Captain Marvel, they're probably going to make another Captain Marvel movie. But I don't think it'll be in the past. Do you?
I think it might be in the past.
I don't think so. I don't think they're going past with it.
Or they might explain what happens in Endgame.
Maybe, but I don't think they want to make Endgame about her. Right?
They have to because they have Ronan. They might want to explain what happens with Ronan and everything like that.
I guess we'll find out. I just think that there's stuff missing.
They even have that other guy from Guardians.
And why wouldn't she come back? Right, her best friend, her niece, they're there. Why wouldn't she?
Came back to visit.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. There's just so much there's missing in another movie.
Maybe Rogue stole her powers.
Wow.
Like in the comic books.
Okay. I don't want to talk about that because they don't own the X-Men quite yet. But the point I really want to focus on before we end this is that there needed to be a movie in between the Captain Marvel and Endgame that tells us where Captain Marvel's been. Something like where we know where Captain America was. He was stuck in ice.
Yeah.
It made sense. There needed to be something for the audience. Now, they could explain an Endgame, and that criticism could be gone, but I think it's a fair criticism.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a very fair criticism.
So
I guess you're not a fanboy.
What are you giving this movie out of 10?
I'm going to give it, based on what you said, I'll give it an 8.5.
8.5? I'm going to give it a 9.
What?
Because
you talked so much crap about it.
What crap did I talk? My crap is not even about the movie.
Okay.
Like you said, it can be explained in Endgame, And at the end of the day, it's still a good movie. I love the themes of this movie. I love the character development. My criticisms are very superficial. I'm really nitpicking in a lot of my things. Like, oh, they didn't name her Captain Marvel. Really? That's gonna knock you down what to like an 8.5? There are more questions. And even the Tesseract, we came up with a possible solution that could be explained in one line of dialogue that they could have left on the cutting room floor.
Okay, fine.
What big criticism did I have of this movie? If
You
any,
just went ham about not having this, but then again, that's with the MCU, so.
and they could theoretically make another movie that's in the past that connects it better. You can't hold this movie accountable for that. If this movie had come out 3 years ago, I wouldn't have had that criticism. So it's not about the movie itself. It's about in the grand scheme of the time, which can be fixed. So what big criticism did I have?
Okay.
Come on, fanboy.
Fanboy, I'm the one that
You're
gave
calling
it
me
8.5.
fanboy. Sorry.
You're the fanboy here, not me.
What criticism? I'm just saying, like, why do you give it an 8.5? What's your major criticism? That you dropped it to an 8.5. What your
it's
little
not a
nitpicks?
terrible score. That's a great score.
Because
for
they
a
were
movie.
arrested? Is that drops it 1.5 of a rating?
No, just the way Fury's eye was explained. I didn't really.
So
like
that drops it. If they don't even explain the eye, if he goes in that movie comes out of that movie with 2 eyes, you're giving it a 10.
Not a 10. I'd give it a probably a 9.
Okay, so where's the other one mark?
The rest. Why are you getting so? See, look
They're
at the
doing a
fanboys
cover-up.
defending it.
I'm
You're
just
defending
saying.
the movie.
I'm just
What
saying.
is going
You're
on
criticizing
here?
my rating. I just want to know where it's coming from.
Mr. Fanboy.
All right.
Holy. See?
Enough about that. We spent about an hour talking about this movie.
You cannot say anything bad about Marvel around this guy. Let me tell you that.
Oh my god. It's a very well done movie. I highly recommend going to see it in theaters.
Me too.
All right, let's move on to our next movie. So we're going this week back to the vault, and as you can see by our backdrop today, our producer is a very big into Formula One. So he wanted us to rewatch Rush and review it and to get our thoughts on it. So let's start with our opening thoughts.
I love this movie. I loved it the first time I watched it. I loved it the second time. This movie has it all, you know. Naked women, fast cars, and just guys just going at it. A huge rivalry, being champions of the world. It made me want to be a Formula One driver. I'm like, man, I picked the wrong profession. Why am I trying to podcast? I should have went into Formula One.
Oh, that's it? Okay, sorry. You know, the first time I watched it, or going into the first time I watched it, I wasn't looking forward to it. Not even a little bit. I think that a lot of movies that are racing movies, they're kind of boring. You know, I'm not a big fan of Talladega Nights. Days of Thunder, thought it was just okay. You know, and again, because
Speed Racer, what about that one?
It was horrible. But the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of these racing movies, they don't really make racing interesting because it's hard to make racing interesting because it's so repetitive. So you're just kind of showing the same thing over and over again in a movie. So what do you tend to show in racing movies? You tend to show crashes. So I really wasn't looking forward to this movie going in. But after watching it, I thought Ron Howard did a fantastic job trying to show the different aspects of racing, right? Where he put the camera on the car so you can see the feet, the views from the helmet, the way the filming was done, it was very interesting. I was very, very impressed by watching it.
Did you like the sound the cars made?
Oh, it was great. The score is fantastic. The score is fantastic in general. I learned a lot. I left the movie wanting to know more about Lauda and
Niki Lauda.
Sorry,
Niki Lauda.
Hunt. I found them both very interesting. The racing sequences they chose to put on were really good. The filming was fantastic. I loved one of the things I really liked about this movie is how they practiced. Right, they're just sitting there like on the back of the car and like how they go through the track in their head, and they're like, okay, this is on the right, this is on the left. It to me it really was good. I liked how they built the car. They with the magnesium pieces and things like that. The acting, you bring in a Daniel Bruhl, you bring in Chris Hemsworth. They're just fantastic characters. I just like the storytelling, how it's from each perspective, right?
Yeah.
And it was really good.
I love both their perspectives. I really like. It did a good job, like showing the rivalry, like showing both sides.
So that was when I first watched it. Upon the rewatch, I gotta be honest, it didn't hold up as well as I would have liked. And there was two things. There's two things that kind of jumped out at me. The first, I knew the story now, so I rewatched or I read a lot about Niki Lauda and about James Hunt. And although there was a rivalry, it was more of a media-driven rivalry. The two were friends. They lived together, right? They weren't. It wasn't this crazy rivalry like when they were in the Germany when we get that big huge racetrack or crash. Sorry, that Lauda gets injured. In the movie, it's Hunt that's like, oh, we're definitely racing. You're such a coward there, Lauda. That didn't happen. So it does take away from it that the rivalry wasn't as it was very Hollywood. And the second thing, I didn't find the drama as much as I remembered. And my biggest criticism, actually, there's a third thing. I lied to you. There's a third thing. The women are useless characters in this movie, and I'll talk about that after when we get to our criticisms.
Whoa! It's International Women's Day.
No, that was 2 days ago.
Well, it's still the essence is still strong. And
yeah, and I'll talk. When they're useful to applaud.
In my heart and in my head still, and you just thrash it on women.
We'll talk about that when we get there. So the movie begins with, or those are opening thoughts. The movie begins with Hunt and Lauda racing for Formula 3. And we meet both characters. And they're both very interesting and they're very distinct from each other. And they're fascinating, right? You've got the Hunt, who's this brash, self-confident, cocky, partier, playboy. He's spoiled, got all this money that he can just spend. And then you've got
women that want to be with him.
Yeah, and then you have Lauda, who's cool and focused, right? He's calculated. He's a tactician and he relies on his technical knowledge and his genius to compete. He's all about practice and precision, and he gets cut off from all of his money and basically tells his grandfather, I don't need your money, and just know when I'm champion, don't come crawling back to me. He doesn't really mesh well with people, or as it's portrayed.
He's not very, he's antisocial.
What do you think of the character? Who do you relate more with, or who did you like more with, or both the answers?
That's hard. I don't know. James Hunt, obviously, he lives a very fast lifestyle, but I really like Niki Lauda's character because he's the Tom Brady's, he's the Michael Jordan, always waking up super early, going 100%. To the track. Like that's something you have to respect, right? He truly loves the sport.
I'm Team Lauda all the way. All of the way. I like everything about him. Winning is more important than anything. Mm-hmm. And that's what he goes through. But so here's my question to you. Who do you think of those two, which character do you think the movie's more about? Because it's from both perspectives, but there can only be one. There can be only one protagonist in this movie.
I think it's more about James Hunt than Niki Lauda, which is unfortunate.
Why do you think that? I can tell you why I think that, but why?
Because he wins at the end. Lauda, they don't go over Niki Lauda's first
It's about the 1976 season which Hunt wins.
Yeah.
Lauda's a 3-time champion, and they mention it, but it's about Hunt's season, so it's about Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's kind of why the second time on the rewatch I wasn't as engaged in the movie because the rivalry that is there is not really a rivalry. Lauda's a 3-time champion. It's like a rivalry between like Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger. There's no rivalry.
That's fair enough. It's funny because after that, because my brother's a huge Formula 1 fan, right? So I watched it with him, and then he was just kept talking about. He's like, yeah, Niki Lauda was way better than James Hunt, and he told me there was not really rivalry; they were actually friends. So it's not
exactly there was no rivalry. It was Lauda was the man, Hunt was the playboy. So the two of them, either way, in the 1970s, they joined the F1. Hunt does it with Hesketh Racing, and Lauda joins Ferrari. And I gotta be honest, my favorite scene in the movie is when Lauda has his team kind of rebuild this car from scratch. They do it all overnight. And then the next day, they give it to his teammate Clay Reganzotti or Zani or whatever. And they're like, I bet you if you put him in my car, you'll save 2 seconds off his time. And so he does, and they look at the time. They're all like, "What? How is this car faster? This guy's a nobody." And they go ask Lauda how they did it. It's like, I want you to pay me exactly what you pay him. I want you this. I want that. He just gives his demands, and he's just eating from his bowl as he's doing this. It's such a good scene, and it shows his character. Right? This is a calculated, all about winning type of person.
Yeah, and I loved it. Oh, yeah. I wish they showed more of Niki Lauda more than James Hunt, in my opinion. Now that I think about it, the movie, because I felt I was more engaged with Niki Lauda.
100%
more. Like his scenes were much more interesting to me. Like I still enjoy James Hunt's scenes, but I really like Niki Lauda's.
So Lauda goes on. He gets this 2-year contract. He wins the championship in '75. And then Hunt decides he's going to join McLaren after his company kind of goes down. Yeah. So the majority of this movie takes place in the 76 season, where Lauda gets off to this great start. He wins the first 2 races. Hunt just struggles. He ends up winning the 3rd race, but is disqualified
because there's a couple of the thing was
too wide.
Yeah.
He gets divorced from his wife, Susie Miller, because she has an affair with Richard Burton. Who
I'm pretty sure he was having an affair too, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he was married to Liz Taylor twice.
Really?
Yeah, that's who Liz Taylor was married like 7 times in her life, twice to Richard Burton.
Wow.
Eventually,
that's crazy.
But eventually, though, things start going Hunt's way. The first thing was the disqualification gets overturned. He gets the points back, so he's back in competition. And then we get to Germany. And Germany is the most, or the hardest track on the circuit. It's called the Leviathan. They've already had 131 deaths. And it's going to be raining. And back in the 1970s, athletes had no rights. It was all about money and corporations and the sponsors. So they wanted to race. And Lauda's like, no, this is stupid. And he goes and's like, I think we should boycott. If all the drivers boycott together, well, then there's power in numbers. What are they going to do? They're paying to see us. But Hunt calls him out and says, who does this benefit the most if we don't have this race? The answer is Niki Lauda. So they have to race. This is the very Hollywood scene. This is not Hunt. There was a vote. There was one person. It was a 1-person difference in this vote. So the race goes on, and we have this huge crash where Lauda catches fire. His face gets burned. His lungs have to be sucked out. He almost dies.
Yeah. Just sad.
And then Hunt goes on this huge tear.
Yeah.
Like, of winning.
He has no clue. Because remember, it was just at the point where he won that one. He finally fixed up his car, right? Because they were having engine issues, and then now he started getting good. Started getting better.
So, with him dominating, Lauda, after 6 weeks, returns against doctor's orders.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then...
That's mad
you know
respect for
the
that,
crazy
though.
thing is, though, like, in 6 weeks of being gone, he was still first.
Yeah,
that's more crazy. That's how good he was. This is why it's Hunt's story and not Lauda's, because Lauda was just so dominant. Yeah. So his first race back, he finishes 4th, and Hunt he doesn't even finish.
Yeah, I love that scene where everyone just runs down like, "Oh, Niki Lauda!"
Oh yeah. So we go on. It gets to our last race in Japan where it's raining again. And Lauda's up 3 points, so all he has to do is, be successful in this race, or finish ahead of Hunt, and he wins.
Yeah.
After the race starts, after lap 2, Lauda just says, I'm out. I'm not racing in this rain again. I'm not putting my life on the line. And Hunt ends up going on to victory. And then we get the ending where, Hunt has nothing left to prove. He races 3 more years, and then he retires, and he goes into broadcasting, and Lauda goes to flying planes. He wins 2 more championships before he officially retires.
Niki Lauda had the better career.
Oh, way better.
He's still alive, isn't he?
Yes.
Because James Hunt died
Dave met Lauda during the premiere of Rush when it came out at Toronto International Film
That's
Festival.
crazy.
So I do have I do have a question for
I
you.
want to see that photo.
Does Hunt get a bad edit in this movie?
I feel like it does. I don't know too much about Hunt, but like it made him seem like he was the other word in the movie. Right? He always freaked out, always waking up with so much women. He never. It makes it seem like he never really felt completed in his life, right? Like he never really knew what he was looking for. Like if you look at on the other end of the spectrum, Lauder finds a wife, he's happy. Like the lady meets his like love of his life, which is we didn't go over my favorite scene, but one of my favorite scenes is like he's just acting casual, doesn't tell anyone the girl that he's a Formula One driver. He just drives normally, and then these two Italian guys come in like, Nicky Lauda, oh yeah, like they're like, look, Nicky Lauda driving my car. He just gets signed to Ferrari, It was I love that scene. And then they're like, he's not a Formula One driver. He doesn't have long hair. His shirt's not open. And he's driving like a grandma. He's driving so slow. And he's like, why would I need to drive fast? There's no point. I don't want. There's no point in having a risk, right? Very calculated, right? Then she's like, I want to see it. Then he just goes ham. And everyone's like, woo! Best scene ever.
Oh, yeah. Again, and I think the way the writing of this movie, neither character we're supposed to like, right? Lauder is like socially awkward. We're supposed to be like, ugh.
This guy's a jerk.
He's not relatable. But I found I related way more with Lauder than I did with Hunt.
Yeah.
Like Hunt is like, again, like you said, I don't care. Like I'm like, he's got this personality. Like I want to win, but I don't want to do what it takes to win. And I don't like him. I didn't like him at the beginning of the movie. I wasn't cheering for him. I wasn't emotionally engaged in him. Whereas Lauder, on the other hand, I was from the beginning.
The first time I was more emotionally engaged. The second time I watched it, I liked a lot. Like I liked Lauder way more. Looking rewatching it.
So my next question is: so Ron Howard, the director, doesn't take sides in this movie, right? He shows you both characters.
Yeah.
So, my question to you is the focus should the focus be on living life, or should the focus be on focusing on your career? Is it Lauda or is it Hunt? What should the audience take away from it?
Well, that's a good question. It sparks a very interesting debate. Well, honestly, it depends on what you value, right? It's we saw two different ways. Two people without someone that valued his work, but he still had a successful life outside of work. We had someone that's successful, the good life, but had a failed marriage. So it's very interesting what you want to take, right? And then even at the end, Lauda goes on to stay in the in Formula One because he loves it. Hunt retires the next year and goes into broadcasting.
Well, he still stays in Formula One though.
Yeah,
but it's an easy paycheck, right?
Yeah.
It's about the spotlight.
Yeah, he's like, I don't have anything to prove, right? Like he won once and he doesn't want to prove it. Technically, I still think he has something to prove because Lauda was gone for 6 weeks.
See, to me, I know, 100% I agree. You only won because Lauda got hurt. I think this hurts the movie, though. And this will lead me to my last kind of question is, does the director's choice in not choosing, like, what philosophy is better, who's the better side, hurt this movie or make it at least hard for us to pick someone to root for?
I don't think so. I think it sparks debate. That's what I like. That's what I see from it, right? It's something that because I feel like there's no wrong answer. It's what you prefer. So I like that. I like the fact that he didn't pick a side, because too many movies just want to run their one narrative, right? They never really look at both sides. I like that. I just like the fact that it shows both sides.
Oh, I like that. Don't get me wrong, I like it, but I found it, especially the second time, well, maybe even the first time, hard to choose like who I like better. Like I feel like I wasn't emotionally connected with either one.
Okay.
And I think that hurts a movie. Like if you're not emotionally connected to a character, it could hurt I think it hurts the movie.
It could.
Or a book or anything for that matter. You don't care.
I mean, I cared more for Nikki Lauder's character cause just watching.
Oh, I agree with you, but I don't think. Yeah, I don't know.
For me, like James Hunt, I didn't like I said, I didn't like his character as much. Rest in peace, though, you know. But wasn't my wasn't the guy who really was like, okay, you know, it's kind of great.
All right.
Playboy life.
What are some of your dislikes on this movie?
What are my dislikes? It's a good question. I should have wrote that down. I need to start writing notes again. One of my dislikes, yeah, I didn't like the fact that it focused more on James Hunt than Niki Lauda. Like it's more about him, right? We can say they show both sides, but it's more geared towards James than Nikki. Even though it shows a good amount of Nikki, right?
But Nikki in the 1 year where he didn't win.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll talk about why I don't like the women now, because I think that's a big thing for me. And I'll start with Susie, Olivia Wilde's character. She's just unnecessary to the plot. She didn't bring anything to help the plot one way or another.
Which one's Susie, his wife?
His wife that he got divorced from.
Oh, that one. Yeah, she didn't really.
Affair. Nothing. What was the point of putting her in there? Like, it didn't make the movie better. It didn't make the movie worse.
You just made him.
It was an unnecessary aspect to the plot.
I think it was just trying to show his character as not really able to. In a way, they both were kind of antisocial. One was just more of he used drugs and women as a way to connect with people, but he couldn't really connect, so he tried to get married, but it didn't really work out. So tried to show him as a failed human, I feel.
Would agree with you, except for one problem.
What?
She's the one who asked to get married quickly. It was her idea, not his. Remember, she was like to him, "Let's get married." It was on a whim.
I thought he said that too, didn't he?
No, I'm pretty sure it was
He's
her.
like, I heard him like, "I want to get married" or something. We're supposed to get married, and then.
Yeah, that was her idea, though. I could be wrong. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe you're right. And then Marlene Lauda, and I'm gonna say this was probably my like you. That was one of the scenes. Well, all my favorite scenes are Niki Lauda's scenes. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
like let's call it what it is.
Even
and
except
your
for the
your scene
the
when
vacuum one.
And your scene where they meet each other is probably my second favorite scene in this movie. So I loved Marlene's character throughout this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Until after the movie, when I'm ripped away from this story, because these two broke up, right?
Oh wow.
So they made this movie, and they made this is like a love story between these two, that she's gonna stick with them thick and thin. That this is true love, and then I find out, like he did not race in Japan for her.
Yeah.
And I find out after the movie that they divorced. I'm like, I'm done. You made this movie about their love, and they don't even stay together in the end. I'm like, are you kidding me? And maybe, you know what? Maybe I'm being harsh on this. I could very well be. But at the end of the day, I know that it's true that they broke up, but it hurts watching that. And like, you made me believe in that love story, and it didn't even exist. And I am not a fan of that.
Well,
the gesture that you showed me loses all of the appeal.
We don't know. It could have been her fault for leaving, and we don't know. Maybe he still
you are
loved
right.
her. So
you are right.
Know.
You are 100% right. Mm-hmm. It could have been, but that's irrelevant to the fact that we watched the story. In this story, you're telling me about their love. That their love is going to conquer all. That's how you leave me.
I didn't see it as their love was going to conquer all. I saw it as it made Niki Lauda realize there was more important things to life than Formula One. Because when he goes into the movie, all he cared about was racing. All he talked about was racing. He didn't care about his teammates. He was rude to his teammates. He was rude to anybody. And this one, he even raced because of his rivalry, which he even raced and had that crash, right?
Everyone was racing there. Come on.
Yeah, but like he still even had that. He's like, I just feel it shows his growth as a character. But I know it sucks.
You ripped the story away from me, and you know what? when I tell you my rating, it's not like it killed the movie. I'm not saying that, but I disliked it. Don't make because of how it ended. Don't make the movie about that. Don't make Nikki Lauders. Don't make it about her. Then I'm not saying that. I'm not saying don't show her. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying don't make Nikki Lauders' entire story arc about her, because that's what the movie was about. James Hunt's story was about winning. Nikki Lauders' story was about her. You don't agree? What was Nikki Lauder?
I feel like it wasn't about her. I felt like it was about him trying to break out of his socially awkward shell.
But he doesn't. Only with her. He doesn't. It's not like he relates after. It wasn't like he was nicer to other people. It was her. The only person he was nice to was her. So if he was nicer to everyone, I would tend to more agree with you.
Fair enough. We didn't see that in the movie.
We didn't. That's my point. You can't tell me the real life story, because that's irrelevant. You can only tell me the story that we saw.
That is true.
And he might have been the night. He probably wasn't that unsocial anyway. They Hollywoodified it. But if you're good again, if it's about him, it's going to be, we're going to see him become nicer. Oh, I met Marlene. Everything's happy. I'm going to be nicer to everyone. I'm not going to be as cutthroat. But that's not what it was. And you know what? You say it's not about her, or she might have done something. He married someone that was like 30 years younger than him and had twins like 5 years ago.
Oh, man.
Look at the marriage.
I don't know what I'm looking at here.
Oh, it was 30
When
years
she was
marriage.
married. He went in 1976. Look at their marriage.
I don't know what I'm looking at, but
1991.
anyway, moving on. I also felt the movie was anticlimactic.
Yeah, that's the one thing I noticed too. Like the whole, because Nikki Lauder gets off, you're like, oh, you're expecting this big time race between Hunt and Nikki Lauder.
Yeah,
like,
so
oh,
anticlimactic.
what's going on? And then you're like, oh, it's just him trying to beat the nobody racers.
Okay. So those are my two things. The females in the movie, I just didn't think they helped push the story forward, and I felt the ending was anticlimactic. So what are you giving this movie out of 10?
Still love this movie though. 8.5, baby.
Okay. You know, it's funny. I spent more time criticizing this movie, and I'm giving it an 8 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
So you're giving it only 0.5 higher than I am. Don't worry, I really like this movie, and I know a lot of my criticisms are nitpicks. Don't get me wrong. The acting is fantastic, the story is fantastic, the way they made the sequences of the car racing was really interesting. It was kind of original in a lot of ways, and or at least further out than other racing movies. It's probably, if you're asking me to rank like movies based on Formula One or NASCAR or anything like that, it's probably gonna be my number one choice. So it's still fantastic, but that doesn't defeat the fact that I think my criticisms are very solid to it, even though you might disagree with me.
Yeah, because you're just a Marvel fanboy.
Yeah, you gave it an 8.5 and I gave it an 8. So
if Captain America was driving the car, it would have been a 9 out of 10.
Thor was driving the car. It was literally a Marvel superhero. You cannot say that.
Oh, so that's why it's an 8.
Oh boy, So should I go lower? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, guys, that wraps us up for today. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to our reviews on Captain Marvel and Rush. Be sure to go see both of those. Next week on the podcast, we'll be talking about 5 Feet Apart, and we're going back to the vault. And I'm pushed for The Sandlot because Xavier here has never seen it. And it's one of those must-see movies before you die.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, I'm gonna call it on the air right now. You're gonna give it at least an 8 out of 10.
Okay. And I'm not gonna not give it an 8 unless out of spite, because that's not right.
When you give it a 10 out of 10, you're gonna be really.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think it's gonna be a 10 out of 10.
Oh yeah, we'll see. All right, so don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and on iTunes, and follow us on Instagram.
Like us. What's your handle on Instagram? You never say it. How are we
Michael
supposed to
Fooch.
follow? And I'm at Mr. Xavier Bonnet.
We are at Rant on Reel, so that's where you would like our podcast.
Yes.
And you can see all of our other. Make sure to take a look at some of our other podcasts as well.
Dave actually put up a real funny video of one of our bloopers this week. So
you
can
mean one of
definitely
your bloopers because that was on
that
par.
was our bloopers
I was
together. We
definitely
did
on
it
par.
together.
I was definitely. You're telling me that we scripted that?
No, but we did it together. So
all right, guys. You guys have a great week.
take care now. Bye bye.